If that child has a palate, will be struggling to feed. If you've got a hole in your mouth, that milk is going to end up coming through your nose. That child won't be thriving as a child without a cleft will. And so the stress is immediate for that mother. Without help, a child with a cleft lip and palate would struggle to thrive, so develop and take in the nutrients they need. We know that many children die of malnourishment before their first birthday. My invitation to anybody listening is saying, we just need to do something, and you'll be amazed at what you'll get out of it. The joy and happiness from being part of something. And Operation Smile has so many different ways for you to be involved.
Welcome to the CEO Lens. I'm Paul Miller. I'm your host today. We're joined by Sarah Scarth from Operation Smile. She's the director and head of that organization. For those of you who don't know, Operation Smile focuses on giving children their smiles back and also their future. It's about repairing cleft lip and cleft palate and doing it for free. So here are some interesting facts about cleft lips and cleft palates. That 1 out of every 1,000 children born in Africa will be born with a cleft lip or cleft palate. And yet, it only takes 45 minutes to do a corrective surgery and give that child their smile back and restore their future. For those that don't get the corrective surgery, 1 in 10 of them will pass away before their first year birthday. So today, Sarah and I are going to have a conversation around what does it look like to run these organizations that make such a big difference across Africa, and how are they building infrastructure and capability to make sure that none child shall be denied access to surgical procedures that could make such a difference to their lives. We all remember that day when our child is born. And it's a moment which I think most parents have kind of tattooed on their hearts. And, you know, when the baby comes, the first thing you do is you count all the fingers, you count all the toes, and you make sure that the baby's okay. And when the realization is the baby's okay, you start to think of their future. You start to think of, with hope, what could they become? What can I do to get them there?
Yeah.
But then, when I was thinking about our conversation, sadly for some parents, their children are born with a mark. And before that child even gets going, a stigma gets associated with them, and their whole future is called into question. And every year, many, many children in this country are born with a cleft lip and a cleft palate. And for parents, I think, who have these children, they very quickly realize these are special needs children. And society puts a strong stigma against them. And it's hard for them to find a solution. And it's hard for them to find a way to restore that child's smile and restore that child's future. And that's where you come in. So maybe we can start a little bit around, what is that? What is that stigma? What is that condition called cleft lip and cleft palate?
So, yeah, you're right, Paul. It's that moment of, and for so many of our patients, they haven't had the privilege of having scans, prenatal scans, where certainly if there's a cleft lip, it can be picked up. Not a cleft palate, because obviously that's a hole in the roof of the mouth. So majority of the patients that we serve, the mothers have no idea that their child will be born with this condition. And so it's a terrible shock, because you're expecting one thing and now your child looks different. How you look, perhaps, unless you have had a cleft. And so that's traumatic. And so often when we interact with our patients, the mothers, we're dealing with huge amounts of stress and trauma that from that moment and that distress of what have I done, the kind of misplaced guilt and how has this happened? Did I do anything wrong? And then what are people going to say? What are they going to say about me? And how am I going to help my child? And obviously, if you're in more developed, more privileged environments, there's a whole team of people that can come around you to support that. But where Operation Smile works, in 32 countries all over the world, predominantly low and middle income countries, is serving patients who don't have that luxury, who are often rural or in areas where where health services are not meeting their needs. And so, they they have a child that not only is needy and if that child has a palate, will be struggling to feed. If you've got a hole in your mouth, that milk is going to end up coming through your nose. That child won't be thriving as a child without a cleft will. And so the stress is immediate for that mother. And
what is the outlook for that child, the child that's living in a rural setting? Access to healthcare is limited. Probably the society is going to look upon that child very differently. But in terms of their future, what would it typically look like without help?
Without help, a child with a cleft lip and palate would struggle to thrive, so develop and take in the nutrients they need. We know that many children die of malnourishment before their first birthday in very low income, poor settings. So that's a reality. But for those where the mothers are able to help them to feed and to grow, very quickly their inability to form sounds becomes a huge issue. Because if you've got a hole in your mouth, even those early sounds and words that you develop will be different. And so if you have a cleft lip and a cleft palate, not only do you look different, but you sound different. And naturally, if somebody sounds different, we think that they are intellectually challenged. But often somebody born with a cleft, there's nothing else wrong with them except this physical issue.
But I suppose the educational aspects get impacted as well, don't they? Because often these children don't feel comfortable going to school.
Exactly,
if there's no recovery.
And that's not even, when they're 7 and starting grade 1. It's much earlier than that, when parents are saying to us, my child doesn't want to go to creche because children are picking on them or, the bullying starts. And so a huge issue that we deal with is children retreating and isolating, parents doing the same. And again, in areas where education levels are low, stigma, myths around cleft are very real and apparent. And so in some countries, we see parents with cleft children, being shunned and being pushed out of their communities or really hiding their children because, and we hear it from patients in South Africa, a mother traveling on a taxi and someone saying, what did you do? Did you drop your baby? Or what did you do when you were pregnant?
It's on you, right, as a parent.
It's on you, yeah.
Here's the good news, is this is where you step in. And this is where you restore the smile and you can restore the future. And as Operation Smile, it's an organization that really steps in that gap and makes a significant difference to many of those young lives. And I suppose the sooner you get the surgery, the better the outcome. So maybe tell us a little bit about Operation Smile and the passion that you carry for it.
So, Paul, it truly is an incredible organization, founded 42 years ago by Bill and Kathy McGee. Bill, a plastic surgeon, Kathy, his wife, a nurse, and they were invited to join a mission in the Philippines to, bring their skills and help. And they were totally overwhelmed with the number of people who showed up seeking care. And they spent a couple of weeks, returned to their home in Virginia Beach in the States, and around their dining room table said, we have to do something. And that was the birth.
What year was this?
1982.
My word.
The organization was founded. And it very much was about them reaching out to their friends, colleagues, and saying, will you join us? Will you come and help us?
Yeah.
And the early days, the story of Operation Smile is driven by people who put their hands up and who said, I'll come with you. And it was driven by a desire to enable them to bring health to people who didn't have access so that they could live the lives to their fullest, so that they could be able to develop and grow and contribute to their fullest potential to society. They knew, Bill and Kathy knew that this condition is entirely repairable. It wasn't. There are many health issues out there that are difficult to treat, but this one you could repair. But critically, it was through a lack of skill set.
Yeah.
So that not enough health workers had the skills to be able to do these specialized surgeries, and that's how we were founded.
You gave me a wonderful quote the other day from Bill. You spoke about, typically we get told, don't make your problem my problem. And it's almost become a bit of a mantra, in the more near period, and we draw very strong boundaries around, what's appropriate, what's not. But his mantra was very different, right, when it came to problems.
So his is about that love is making somebody else's problem your own.
Yeah.
And that's really what has underscored the last 40-odd years at Operation Smile. Every volunteer that has come to the organization, the partnerships that we've built, the staff that run the organization today are driven by how can we step into the space where other people have bigger problems than we have, and how can we collectively help to solve those?
So I had the privilege, Sarah, of going to Morocco on a mission with Operation Smile. I went to Nador, and two things struck me. The first is I could not get over the number of volunteers on the mission. We were well over 150 people in totality. The second thing which took me back was just the complexity of the operation. You had psychologists, plastic surgeons, maxillofacial surgeons, anaesthetists, speech therapists, nurses, recovery staff, screening administrators. It was a complex operation. And the surgery itself is a fairly complex surgery. Yes, cleft lip, I understand, is a lot easier. But when it gets involved with cleft palate, it's a very significant event. So as the leader of that, maybe you just want to talk us through how does that look on an operation? Who all arrives? How does it get done?
So when we were founded 40-odd years ago, it was about bringing teams together. In the early days, most of those volunteers came from more resource-rich countries and to serve poorer countries. Here in South Africa, we were able to largely drive our programs with local volunteers. But it was about recognizing that to carry out one surgery, and yes, a lip surgery is quicker than a palate surgery. It's by no means less complex. It's highly specialized. It just, in the right hands, can be done a lot quicker than a palate, which is more complex, as you say. But Operation Smile had to develop over years the methodology of how to achieve the greatest number of surgeries over a concentrated period of time, and how many people, or all the different roles that were needed to do it safely. That has been underpinned everything that Operation Smile has done. These parents come to us and hand their children over to us, trusting that we will take the best care of them possible. And we have always held ourselves to the highest possible standards, delivering care, whether we are in Nador, in Umtata, in rural DRC, Madagascar, Malawi, wherever we are in the world. How are we ensuring that we perform surgeries of a standard that you would see in one of the best hospitals that you would take your child to?
It's inspiring to think that the solution is homegrown, and the people that bring that solution, they do it as volunteers. They don't get paid for it. They give up their professional time, their spare time to come on these missions. And the remarkable thing now is you're celebrating 20 years of Operation Smile in South Africa. That's a lot of lives changed. Not just the patients, but also the volunteers. Their lives get changed through this process too.
Absolutely, Paul. You know, I when I started with Operation Smile, I'm in my 5th year now, I spent the first few months reaching out to volunteers, getting to know them, and I was profusely thanking them. And a number of them said, stop. It's not about us. It's not, we are not the heroes here. It's being able to come together, and you are enabling me to gain so much. And so they were thanking us for the opportunity to be part of these incredible programs where egos are parked at the door. Everybody is known as, you will have noticed that it's Paul and Sarah and Joe, and
we're equal.
And everybody's on the same level. We know in medicine it's a lot of hierarchy. Not at Operation Smile. It's Bill and Kathy. Everyone is the same. The person checking the person in, administering the forms is as important as the surgeon, the anaesthetist, the nurse, or the person tidying up, or the student coming along and volunteering and being inspired to perhaps start their career.
What also took me aback is it's a community of people that share a common purpose to have an impact on society. And the individuals have done 10, 15, 20 missions. That's a mission a year, sometimes even 2 missions a year. So this is a group of individuals that are really committed to make a change and make an impact. And I kind of wondered what drives them, what makes them do it, and what do they get out of it? And what kind of person is it that you typically see giving of their time, giving of their energy and their expertise?
Well, I think that's, I would agree, it's remarkable that people keep coming back and wanting to be part, even though they're giving up family time, they're giving up holidays, particularly nurses, for instance, that they're not in private practice. They're not able to say, oh, it's no big deal for me to take extra time off, I can make that up. They generally are taking their leave. And if they do every one of our programs, that's 9 or 10 days out of their leave that they are giving. That's really self-sacrifice. So for me, that's real love in action, isn't it? But what we see over and over again is that our volunteers are a part of something much bigger than themselves. They're achieving something they could never do on their own. And that's what we're giving them the opportunity to be part of, as we do for every single person, even if you can't be in that operating theatre, as a donor, as someone who decides to give a regular donation, or someone who collects bottle tops for us, or someone who motivates their company to give a gift in kind, or through Miles for Smiles actually decides, I'm going to run my first 10K, or run a marathon, or cycle.
So that's interesting. I mean, beside the people that are actually in the theatre or screening, Operation Smile has a community of supporters that sit much wider than that surgical day. And you mentioned Miles for Smiles. Tell us a little bit about how do we get involved, right? If you're listening to this, maybe you're not able to go on a mission, maybe you don't have any expertise or skills that you can bring, but how do you contribute to this success? How do you make sure that that child gets their smile back and gets their future back?
Well, Miles for Smiles has an amazing history, and CIPLA are very much at the heart of that. So 20 years ago, David Greer, the intrepid adventurer, decided he was going to run the Great Wall of China to raise funds for Operation Smile so that we could deliver a surgical program. And it has grown from there. And he has inspired so many other people to do what is their Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
And CIPLA really stepped into that space, first as a supporter, and then to say, this is so much bigger than just one man. This is a movement.
Yeah.
This is the opportunity for people to have to step into that space, to use make a personal goal, and to use it and turn that goal into something that transforms a life. And you know, we are astounded every year how this is growing. The number of people who are putting their hands up and saying, right, I'm running 2 oceans, I'm doing the Sunland Marathon, I'm doing
my first park run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because maybe it is just 5Ks because you've been someone who's struggled to exercise, but just making that, saying, I want this purpose. I want it to be more than just because I've got a New Year's resolution to get fit.
I want to explore this concept because for many people, we all want to make a difference. And for some people, it's okay that, you know, I run 5Ks and I raise maybe a smile, and a smile is what, about 5,500?
We say 5,500. That gets a surgeon to a surgical program. So we all know it's going to cost a lot more, but that gets the surgeon with the patient.
So 5,500 rand, and a surgeon will get there. They'll do the corrective surgery. Yes, there'll be other supports to come. There'll be speech therapy or whatever else is required. But that can change a life, and it can make the difference in terms of that child being, you were describing earlier, being kept away, hidden, versus rejoining society and thriving and really getting on in life. So I think it's something quite exciting to see what a transformation that can bring. But for you as the donor, I think for many people wonder, you know, I'm in a corporate space. Most of us work for corporates, but here you are working for a non-profit organization. And I wonder if you can describe for us, Sarah, how did you go from being someone burning with a passion to make a difference to now heading up the operation across South Africa for all these patients and for all these volunteers?
So, Paul, I was fortunate to move into the not-for-profit space early on in my career. I started off in communications. That's what I studied.
Okay.
And I thought I always envisaged that I was going to be in some big, fancy, glamorous PR agency. But the reality of it was not quite what I expected. And I had an opportunity, you know, when I was not long having graduated, to step into a space where the person I was working with was doing work for a big international animal welfare organization. And gosh, that just sparked something in me that I hadn't realized, that working hard, which has always been who I am and driven, but now to do it for something that suddenly you see a difference. Wow, that was just incredible. And so I followed that path, and I, yes, great opportunities came my way, but I really sought them out. And I made a decision early on that, yes, I knew that maybe I wouldn't get the financial rewards, but I would get the opportunities to be part of something that was really exciting, and I could be part of change, and that has always driven me. And so for the first part of my career, I was involved in delivering programs, running big emergency relief operations over the world, but very much around animals, and involved in campaigning for change, for conservation. So I always say I spent the first half of my career spending the money. And then I started a family, and I couldn't travel around the world. And so I stepped into focus more on fundraising, because as program people, we always have to raise the money. And I realized that I was as passionate about the change that I could help other people make by being part of a solution, then even if they weren't in the field, and giving them the opportunity. Often we talk about fundraising as some people will say, oh, I could never do that. It's like begging. It's the furthest, could be the furthest thing from the truth. Fundraising is about giving people opportunity to be part of something bigger than themselves. And
kind of like there's anaesthetists and surgeons, right?
Absolutely.
As you started, you said,
absolutely,
you were thanking them, and they said, no, hang on, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yes. So the two have come together beautifully in this position, stepping into this leadership role. But choosing to join Operation Smile for me happened after I had my own personal experience of being treated by amazing doctors, because I got COVID very badly. And I saw firsthand what it means to benefit from amazing health care. And what about people who don't have access to that? So when I was approached to join Operation Smile, it was just at a moment when I really understood very, very acutely what it means to live without access, because I had had the privilege of it. And so now that memory is what really drives me, because every time we go on a program, we interact with people who don't have that luxury. And Paul, South Africa is so much further advanced in many areas than our neighbors. But we're on a continent where there's the greatest need to increase the health workforce than anywhere else in the world. And so the need is massive. And unfortunately, in our own country, because of all the cuts, because of the challenges that we face, the need for us to come alongside government and support them even more in enabling patients to access the specialized care is growing. And so, that drives me every day, because it was very real to me personally, and I can see it in the need for our patients.
The partnership component, I think, is quite inspiring. I think as South Africans, sometimes it's all too easy to find fault and criticism when society doesn't perform, or government structures underperform or disappoint or aren't able. But I think Operation Smile has been built on partnership, working with state hospitals, working with health ministers to find the children that need the care, and then getting the best surgeons, the best anaesthetists, the best care they can to come and descend in the Eastern Cape and make a difference to so many children's lives. I think that's a hallmark, right, of success.
Very much, and it's very much how the organization has evolved out of COVID, where everything shut down, and just going out and delivering very important surgical programs or missions came to a grinding halt, because we couldn't be out there. And it forced the organization to look, how can we make sure that we are partnering to enable the surgeries to happen whether we're there or not? And that's really where Operation Smile is focusing all our energy. Education has always been a major component of what we have done. From the early days of our missions, we've always prioritized transferring of skill. But now education is the heartbeat of what we do. How are we empowering to build local capacity so that local teams can do the surgeries, whether we're there or not?
Transfer of skills.
Transfer of skills. And so, yes, there are areas where we need to go to deliver weekend surgical programs with a big team of volunteers. But our goal is to get to a point where we're partnering with the hospital and we've enabled that transfer of skills. We're supporting where needed with supplies, sponsoring theatre time where needed, so that children are not waiting for the surgery, but critically that it can happen as a matter of course. And globally, through our bold new strategy called Operation 100, we are committed to investing in 100 cleft teams in 100 hospitals, and that's only the beginning. Okay. And why are we doing that is because we've learned that the cleft child has brought us to the community, and by investing in cleft surgical training, you enable so many more surgeries to happen. When you've trained an anesthetist to be able to safely anesthetize a child, how many more children will that anesthetist be confident to be able to help? We can't even count them. And so, it's about, yes, early access, but not just doing it by flying in and flying out.
I run an organization. It's a large private organization. And as a leader of that, we have to show up certain ways, right? Yes, we have to focus on results. Yes, we have to make sure we take care of our people that work with us. Purpose is a very powerful driver of success. If an organization can really identify its purpose and its North Star, it's amazing how people align behind that and find fulfillment in it. I just want to pause for a minute. You run a non-profit organization, right? Many people that work for you are not your employees. Some are not. Just talk through your leadership, talk through what does it take to be Sarah in Operation Smile and oversee this very complex, very organic structure. And how do you do it as a leader?
Paul, I show up every day with the same passion and determination that I had as a young 20-odd-year-old when I first stepped into this not-for-profit space. And I don't know, obviously that's just who I am, but it is my fuel, and if I look back over the years, the organizations I've had the privilege of working with, and now this incredible organization, is that I do not expect anybody to do anything that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. And I really embrace a servant leadership approach of where I'm about how can I help you to be your very best? How can I empower you to be able to achieve more than you ever thought was possible? And how can we do it and celebrate it as a team so that our individual achievements are our collective achievements? So I work very hard to park my ego at the door. I don't, I think, try and keep that out of the way. And whilst as an organization in a not-for-profit space, you can never reward people at the same financial level as you can in the private sector, but there are other riches that we can share. And I've always fought wherever I've been for people to be remunerated in an equal way, importantly, and to ensure that it is that they have more than a livable wage. People must be able to provide. Let's keep that out of the way. So many organizations have this notion that because you're in the not-for-profit space, you shouldn't have an expectation to earn a decent salary, and I don't agree with that. If anything, we need to ensure that our people who are working to change the world have as much reason to stay doing that, and that we can attract people from other sectors to come into our space. So let's keep that out the way. But then it just comes down to being authentic and being, putting in the hard work consistently. And I honestly, I love people. I love whether it's the staff that I have the pleasure of working with, our volunteers, importantly our patients and our partners. And I care about people individually, and I invest heavily in relationship building. So that's how I have always functioned. But I'm on a journey as well. And leadership is, I don't know, you're always, I think if you think you've got it, if you kind of say, no, I've read all the books, or I've done the training, I'm fine. I think then there's a problem. I think you should constantly be saying, how can I do better? How can I take a moment to stop and go, was that the best response? And never be afraid to say, look, I didn't get that right. I think when you're vulnerable and you're honest with your team, people really respond well to it, because I don't always get it right.
Metrics, does that matter to you?
Absolutely.
Do you hold those metrics? What do they look like? And how do you make sure that there's alignment behind them?
Yeah. So whether it's our patient targets, our hospital partnerships, whether it's looking at what are we procuring, how are we doing it in the most efficient way, how are we reducing waste, how are we looking at how much travel we're doing, and whether it's necessary to step on that aeroplane, can we do it in a more cost-effective and environmentally friendly way? Yes, we're about patient numbers, patient surgeries, but more than that, we're about measuring the impact of that surgeon, that anaesthetist, that nurse trained, and the impact, the multiplier effect that will have. And challenging ourselves to rethink when something's not working. As a global organization, we have the benefit of learning from our colleagues all over the world and being driven by a head office that has a global strategy. We are very much live by the mantra of locally led, globally supported. And so the strategy is set, but we have to adapt it for local context. And so absolutely, we have, just as you have shareholders, we have our donors, we have our stakeholders and our patients who are saying, what are you doing? It's not enough to just say, well, we did X last year, we've done a little bit more this year, or, we've tried, but unfortunately didn't. So we are a very driven, target-orientated organization.
I suppose success almost looks like becoming redundant.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because, if you're going to start building hospital institutions or clinics that are specialized in dealing with cleft lip and cleft palates, hopefully eventually the need will evolve.
Yeah.
And the responsibility will shift, hopefully into government hospitals, clinics, maybe even private clinics that are located in the spaces that need the greatest help. So it's almost an interesting concept to think that success almost equals redundancy.
I would agree entirely with that. So in some provinces where we're working with some hospitals, we are starting to ask those questions. Is there a need for us to go and do an annual program? Or can we shift because of the work that we've done over the last 10, 15 years, to invest in the individuals who are leading, because at the end of the day, it's their determination that's going to drive it. What's remarkable is what the people that we see in the health sector who every day in the government health sector are achieving amazing things in under very difficult circumstances. You know, it's not like going into a private hospital. You have an assumption, I've got everything I need and all the people I need. So these, I think you'll see some of the most resilient and capable people, good people, people who are determined, who really often are working under incredibly difficult circumstances. So, Paul, our work is not just about the surgeries that we do. It's also the relationships that we build with the people who will be in those hospitals when we jump on a plane and leave. And how are we inspiring them, showing them that we are with them, that how do we help them to keep fighting the good fight and to keep fighting for their patients and not becoming exhausted and overwhelmed.
So that partnership theme is back again, right?
Very much so.
And that's going to be the evolution of that responsibility to keep supporting those heroes, keep finding ways to enable them to success. One more question on your leadership. I think often as leaders, we're not always defined by our success, but we're defined by how we handle failures. And I was almost wondering, have there been those moments in the last 5 years for you where you find that something didn't go as you planned? And what was your response and how did you handle it? I mean, you're coming across as being a very humble, enabling leader where you don't see it as your business, but you're more a steward of the business because the cause is so much bigger than you and it's so much bigger than the organization. But I was just wondering, as a leader, how have you dealt with that?
Paul, you know, I think our the biggest challenges that I face is that I'm already 5 steps ahead of where I want to be, and I'm very impatient. So yes, I'm enabling. I want to be the wind behind people's wings, but I'm already, you know, at the ahead of them, running.
The vision.
And I'm kind of come on, keep up, let's go. And so my struggles have been when things have not happened quick enough. Because the wheels, when you're working in the public sector, can move incredibly slowly. And it can become very, very frustrating. Paul, just because you want to do good doesn't mean you're allowed to do good. Just because you believe in your agenda doesn't mean it's somebody else's agenda or their priority. And we must also remember that we are dealing with one issue, one specific disease. The health sector is so complex and so the issues are so big. So I think my challenges have been where I can't achieve those goals because there are other factors that are in the way, or I haven't been sensitive enough to them, or understanding that my reality is not somebody else's. And so, if anything, it's forced me to, how am I spending more time understanding the barriers that somebody else is dealing with, and together talking about what the solution is. Often in the not-for-profit sector, we talk about the danger of coming in with your solution and imposing it on somebody else, as opposed to co-creating a solution together, because you're coming and saying, I want to partner with you, but help me understand. And that's tricky. And so I think those are my learnings, those are my stresses. Big global organizations are very good at saying, right, this is what we're doing, and this is the direction, everybody get behind it, and how do we implement that in a local context?
The concept of locally driven and globally supported. I like that idea a lot. If you're listening and you want to get involved in Operation Smile, what's the way to help you? What's the way to support you? Because this is such an incredible, life-changing organization. You know, when I was on that Moroccan mission, I had the privilege of meeting a young man. He was 25 years of age. And he, as a young child, had gone through an operation to correct his lip and his palate. He was born with a cleft lip and palate. And this young man went and had the surgery as a young little child. And as he got older, he kept coming back on the missions with his mom. And then eventually he went and studied medicine. He was so inspired. And when I was in that mission and I met him, he wasn't fully trained yet. He was in his 4th or 5th year, but he was passionate about what Operation Smile was doing for the society. And he told me for the rest of his life he'll be going there, and eventually he'll be doing the surgical procedures. And I just thought, wow, that's an incredibly powerful story. But how do others get involved? Because it may not be that journey, right? It may be another one. What would be your guidance?
I think just step into the space. Take that plunge. We all have such busy lives, and there's so many demands on them, and it's hard to carve out time to do more. But my invitation to anybody listening is saying, we just need to do something, and you'll be amazed at what you'll get out of it. The joy and happiness from being part of something that, and Operation Smile has so many different ways for you to be involved. And so I'd invite you to visit our website, operationsmile.org.za, and explore the many different ways. And if you don't see something that immediately grabs your attention, drop us a note. We'd love to chat to you more. I am astounded by the stories people share of what being part of this organization has done for them. And they're very, very different stories from students who got involved as part of a student program. And it helped them to grow in ways that they could never imagine. And whether they've gone into medicine or they've gone into other careers, investing in our youth is a very important part of our culture. To individuals who say, okay, well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but I'm going to knit blankets, or I'm going to sew bags for the care packs, or I'm going to go to my company and say, how can we produce X, Y, or Z, how can we donate it? Or our transport company could move your cargo, or, like Sipla, how can we create a foundation that inspires others to keep, to be something more than themselves? Or just when you go shopping, choose My Difference, the Woolies app, and choose Operation Smile. You don't have to do anything else, and they will send us a gift every month. There are so many ways to get involved, and just be part of the joy, because it really is remarkable what we can achieve together.
Sarah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful just to hear your own testimony on how you got into this space. And I think it's inspiration for all of us. I think Operation Smile is 20 years service here in the country. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's much to celebrate. I don't know how many lives you've changed, and I don't know how many smiles you've restored on children's faces, but I'm convinced that the legacy that Operation Smile is going to lay down in our health sector in terms of building those centers of excellence, I think is going to make a big difference. And more power to you. I really would encourage as many people to get involved and to participate as you described, and wish you a lot of success and a lot of happiness in what you're doing.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for your support. And we are so proud to have Sipla as part of our team, and celebrating a long, long partnership. So, yeah, thank you, and really welcome anybody to be part of this journey with us.
Thank you so much.